Hi there, now we're going to read lesson 184. The name of God is my inheritance. You live by symbols. You have made up names for everything you see. We've labeled everything. We've labeled colors, we've labeled animals, we've labeled people, we've labeled feelings. We have created all kinds of names for everything. Each one becomes a separate entity, identified by its own name. There's Laina, there's Peter, there's the grass, there's the dog, there's the mountain. By this, you carve it out of unity. So once we create a separate name for it, it now is a separate thing, no longer one with all that is. By this, you designate its special attributes and set it off from other things by emphasizing space surrounding it. This is that family over there. They've got 3 kids and the mom and the dad and a dog and a cat. So that becomes a separate little entity, no longer one with all that is. So when we say there is that mountain, oh, it's a nice mountain, we like it, we go to it. Oh, it's a bad mountain, we stay away from it. When we decide that this group of people are okay and that group of people is not okay, we pick the ones that we're going to be close to, the ones we're not. And inside of perpetuating for thousands of years, labeling things and calling them separate, we totally have forgotten our oneness and our unity. So that's what this lesson is wanting us to really get, that if we didn't label things, children don't know that things are separate until we begin to label it for them. They suck their toes and enjoy it, but then we tell them that this is toe and this is you put it on the floor, you don't want to put it in your mouth. And we begin to create all of these rules and regulations that begin to separate us from all that there is. Sentence number 6, paragraph 1. This space you lay between all things, to which you give a different name, all happenings in terms of place and time, all bodies which are greeted by a name. This space you see as setting off all things from one another is the means by which the world's perception is achieved. We got to get really clear. Once we have decided that there's this continent and that continent, oh, it's divided by water. This is my land, that's your land. And then we got to create passports to get from one to the other. We create, ego has created this illusion that this people over here, to come over here, they need something special, something separate, something, that somebody with authority has to grant to them so that they can travel, is all part of the illusion that continues to perpetuate our separation. So that's why we have maintained this illusion for thousands of years, because we have labeled things. When we call this America and we call that Australia, now we think that there are 2 separate things, but really it's all one earth appearing to look different, not for the purpose of being considered separate, but for the purpose of seeing how varied God is, how infinite possibilities are possible. So let's go to sentence number 2 in paragraph 2. You see something where nothing is, and see as well nothing where there is unity. A space between all things and you. We think that there's space, but there's really no space. There is energy. And that energy, you're in it and I'm in it. Everything is suspended inside of that energy. We're all part of that matrix. Thus do you think that you have given life in separation. By this split, you think you are established as a unity which functions with an independent will. Paragraph 3. What are these names by which the world becomes a series of discrete events, of things ununified, of bodies kept apart and holding bits of mind as separate awarenesses? You gave these names to them, establishing perception as you wish to have perception be. Now, when Jesus is talking to us, he's talking to all of us. He's talking to the one that is here. Not only the one that I am today, but the one that I was in my last incarnation and the one before that. So we can go back incarnation after incarnation and go back to when the beginning of humans showed up on the planet and begin to see that we've been naming things. We've been labeling things. We've been segregating and separating things and believing that that's the way that it is. So this is being addressed to us, but it's being addressed to the fact that this has been going on for a long time. So we are forgiving the generational hand-me-down beliefs that have perpetuated this dream. That's why it's so hard to undo this dream. Well, it's simple. It's simple undoing this dream, but it appears to be very difficult, very hard, because we have bought into what has been in the mass consciousness for thousands of years. So when we receive this information where Jesus is telling us that we did this, we're accepting it for all of our ancestors and recognizing that they made a mistake too. So we are forgiving ourselves and forgiving them so that we can establish the truth that is true, has been true always, but out of our perception, because our perception created the sense of separation. So the nameless things were given names, and thus reality was given them as well. So God gave us fruit, we began to name them. And we began to say, you know, this one's worth more than that one because this one's grown over here and not over there. So we began to take the bounty of this beautiful planet, this beautiful playground called Earth, the kingdom of heaven that was given to us. And we began the Garden of Eden in all truth, and we began to label things. And if I own the apples and you own the oranges, then I think mine, because I'm special, is worth more than yours. Such insanity that we have created when all of it was given to us for free. We are supposed to be sharing. We are supposed to be sharing nicely, but we're not sharing because we think that we own things and now we have to sell them to each other. Insanity. For what is named is given meaning and will then be seen as meaningful. Good, bad, right, wrong, special, not special. A cause of true effect, these separate things with consequence inherent in itself. So once we begin to label things, we think that they have power. We think that this is the good one, that's the bad one. We don't realize that consciousness is available to us to activate goodness in all of it. Paragraph 4. This is the way reality is made by partial vision, purposefully set against the given truth. Its enemy is wholeness. If we let everything be one whole, things would change drastically. It conceives of little things and looks upon them, and a lack of space, a sense of unity or vision that sees differently become the threats which it must overcome, conflict with, and deny. This is how we have gone to war with each other. We've separated people, decided who's good or bad, and then we go into conflict with one another. Insanity. Paragraph 5. Yet does this other vision still remain a natural direction for the mind to channel its perception. It is hard to teach the mind 1,000 alien names and 1,000 more. Yet you believe this is what learning means. It's one essential goal by which communication is achieved and concepts can be meaningfully shared. Yes, we can create communication with language because we don't know that we can speak telepathically. Yes, we can create, label things for the purpose of making it easy for us to identify we're going to meet at the Starbucks at this intersection because we don't realize that with our mind we can will ourselves to be at that same place at the same time. So until we know the power in our mind, we have to use the tools that have been given to us. But the tools that we've been using, of learning, of remembering, of labeling, we've been using it for the purpose of separating each other, segregating each other, hating on each other, warring with each other. That has not created anything else except for hell on earth. Now, if we use those labels for however long we have to use labels until we return to knowing that our mind can think, we can communicate with our mind, with our hearts. Until we get to that place, how about if we begin to use the labels for what they were intended, to help each other, to communicate, to cooperate, to co-create. That's what creating heaven on earth is going to be about. Eventually, we are going to get to the place where we're going to play nice. Until then, we each have to do the work inside of us to clean up our perception so that we can be an example in the world of one who's no longer pointing at what's wrong, using labels to separate, but using labels to unite, pointing at what's common in each other. Because when we begin to talk about what is the same in each other, we will not be warring with each other. We will want to be connecting with each other, extending our love to one another. Paragraph 6. This is the sum of the inheritance the world bestows, and everyone who learns to think that it is so accepts the signs and symbols that assert the world is real. It is for this they stand. They leave no doubt that what is named is there. It can be seen as is anticipated. You know, you're anticipating that something's going to happen. Oh, this bad thing's going to happen. This good thing's going to happen. It pulls us out of the present moment to experience life as it's unfolding, because we have labeled things and are afraid of things and we seek to avoid what's going to give us pain, and we are always seeking to gain more what's going to give us pleasure, because we've labeled the good and the bad. So, sentence number 4 in paragraph 6, they leave no doubt that what is named is there. It can be seen and as is anticipated. What denies that it is true is but illusion, but is the ultimate reality. Crazy stuff. What denies that it is true is but illusion, for it is the ultimate reality. To question it is madness. To accept is present is the proof of sanity. So when we accept that the world is real as we've labeled it, according to all egos, we think that that is sanity. Oh my goodness, this is why it's so difficult to get somebody to begin to see things differently. This is why it typically requires either a real strong desire to know the way God knows, or something has to break down, something has to crash, something has to fall apart to get our attention, to begin to see the illusion falling apart. Paragraph 7, such is the teaching of the world. It is a phase of learning everyone who comes must go through. We have to be indoctrinated as children to see things that way. But the sooner he perceives on what it rests on illusion is shaky grounds, how questionable are its premises, how doubtful its results, the sooner does he question its effects. Once you begin to realize what working hard is supposed to give me security, and it's going to take me to my retirement, and then I get to be happy, and you begin to watch, well, I'm watching all these people who worked really hard, didn't have a whole lot of fun, created a pot of gold, and they had their security, they retired, and then they lost their house, they lost their IRA, the stock market crashed. Once that illusion begins to crack and we see that our safety is not out there, we're going to want to begin to ask, where is our safety really? And you don't have to wait till the illusion cracks so that you can begin to see that its foundation is on sand. It's nothing. You can begin to do the work now. Clearly, we're doing it because we're reading these lessons. But this course is telling you exactly how the illusion got created. So pay attention, because in knowing how it got created is how you will know how it gets discreated, uncreated, toppled down, however you want to call it, unlearned. Sentence number 4 in paragraph 7. Learning that stops with what the world would teach stops short of meaning. In its proper place, it serves but as a starting point from which another kind of learning can begin. A new perception can be gained, and all the arbitrary names the world bestows can be withdrawn as they are raised to doubt. When you begin to doubt that the government has power over you, when you begin to raise to doubt that laws can define what you can and cannot do, when you begin to raise to doubt that somebody sentenced you guilty, when you can raise into doubt that you got to go through a middle person to get to God, when you can raise into doubt that your worth is determined by your bank account, or that who you are is determined by the color of your skin, when you can begin to doubt that, as so many young people do today, you're going to begin to really see the veil that has been created, this illusion that has been placed before our eyes, like sunglasses that we can remove. The illusion is going to begin to crack very quickly. And by the way, it's falling apart. That we're seeing that this is not working. The illusion is actually crumbling right before our eyes right now. It's really magical to watch. Paragraph 8. Think not you made the world. Illusions, yes. But what is true is earth and heaven. What is true in earth and heaven is beyond your naming. So God created what is real. We labeled, or we laid over it an illusion that we then use to label the world and separate it. When you call upon a brother, it is to his body that you make appeal. His true identity is hidden from you by what you believe he really is. If I think you're a man, you're a woman, you're a doctor, you're a nurse, you're a accountant, you're my son, you're my lover, you're my ex, when I label you those things, I cannot see that you're really God. I cannot see that you're really Christ consciousness. I cannot really feel the essence of who you are because my perception of you will cloud my vision of you. His body makes response to what you call him. For his mind consents to take the name you give him as his own. Little children consent to receive the name the parents give them because they don't question it, they don't doubt it. But it won't be long. Watch this is going to happen. Children are going to want to pick their own names. They're going to decide, no, I don't like this. This confines me. This is too limiting. This doesn't express who I really am. And more people are going to begin to pick a name that is going to resonate with their heart, not the one that mom and dad thought that they should have. It's coming. You know, the days of taking your husband's name when you got married, that's going away. Has been going away, but it's going to eventually go away. We're not going to lose the identity that God gave us by picking up an identity that our parents give us or the church gives us or the government gives us. Those days are coming to an end. Maybe a few generations, but they're coming to an end. And thus, his unity is twice denied. When we see them, when we label somebody and then we give them a name, we deny their identity twice and their unity with us. For you perceive him separate from you, and he accepts his separate name as his. Holy cow. Paragraph 9. It would indeed be strange if you were asked to go beyond all symbols of the world, forgetting them forever, yet were asked to take a teaching function. Yeah, we do need to go beyond these things, but we are here, we're being asked to teach. So you have need to use the symbols of the world a while, but be you not deceived by them as well. So let me just share this. I know that I live in two levels. I know that I'm consciousness, and I know that nothing here is separate. But I use the symbols of the world. I use let's meet somewhere. I'll use your name and call you by your name. I think I've got a boyfriend named Dan. I think I've got children named Spencer, Tony, and Lauren. I operate with that because they believe that. There are very few people who know at the level that I know that we're all pure consciousness. So I cannot have conversations with people at the level of the world if I don't meet them there. If I don't use the symbols, if I don't get excited about the car that they bought, if I don't get excited or show an appreciation for this wonderful new degree that they got, or this thing that they bought, or this country that they're going to go visit. I talk about the places I'm traveling to like I'm going somewhere separate. But I know in my heart it's all one. So once the mind gets cleaned up, the heart opens up, you really truly will be in the world but not of it. You will use the symbols to communicate, but in your heart you know that they're really not real. It's a fascinating place to be. Believe me, it took me a long time to get there. I still work through to stay in that space. I still can catch myself when I make the world real, but it's fascinating sitting inside of the awareness that it is all consciousness. I know sometimes people think when I talk, I sound crazy, but it doesn't matter because in my heart I know I'm sane. Sentence number 4 in paragraph 9. They do not stand for anything at all, these symbols. And in your practicing, it is this thought that will release you from them. The thought that they do not stand for anything at all, I know that. That's my sanity. They become but means by which you can communicate in ways the world can understand, but which you recognize is not the unity where true communication can be found. Where can true communication be found is in the heart. When I love on people, even if I don't use any words, I know I'm united. I know I'm connected because I know our truth. I have felt it. Paragraph 10. Thus, what you need are intervals each day in which the learning of the world becomes a transitory phase. We're building a bridge out of the world. A prison house from which you go into the sunlight and forget the darkness. So yes, I take my time every day to come inside, to go into the sunshine of God, the truth, to know the truth, and then I go out into the world and I do what I need to do in the world, but no, I'm not of it because I know what the truth of me is. Here you understand the word, the name which God has given you, the one identity which all things share, the one acknowledgement of what is true. I know it in my beingness. And then step back to darkness, not because you think it's real. I walk into the world and talk with people like they're separate, like they think I'm separate and I got something to share with them. It's fascinating. Not because I think it's real, but only to proclaim its unreality in terms which still have meaning in the world that darkness rules. So when I'm teaching, I'm talking about your beliefs, your ego, the things that you need to do to shift and lift out of the illusion. So I got to talk about the illusion that you're shifting out of. But I know you're already inside of the reality that God put you in, because so am I. But I got to talk to you so that you understand what I'm speaking of. And it's the way I can express my compassion. It's the way that I can meet you and you not think that I'm way out there. Just like Jesus and Buddha and all the masters did. They meet us where we are. We need to meet everyone where they are, but in our mind, we need to be clear that this is not a separate place. And in our heart, we need to be open and expand compassion for those who still believe it's separate. Paragraph 11, use all the little names and symbols which delineate the world of darkness, yet accept them not as your reality. The Holy Spirit uses all of them, but he does not forget creation has one name. So when I go inside to the Holy Spirit and I forget things, I know Holy Spirit knows that creation has one name, one meaning, and a single source, which unifies all things within itself. Use all the names the world bestows on them, but for convenience. For convenience. I'll meet you at Starbucks at 3 o'clock. There is no such thing as time. There is no such thing as a separate place. Yet do not forget that they share the name of God along with you. God is in Starbucks. God is in the watch. God is in the car that I'm driving to the separate location to meet somebody that appears to be separate, to have what appears to be a conversation between two separate beings. Why? Because when two or more are gathered, there is love. I know that I'm meeting the love that is in you by opening up the love that is in me. That's how I acknowledge the Father. That's how I feel the Father. I get to love you through the Father and me loving you, and I get to feel the truth in you by me acknowledging it. Oh my God, it's so delicious. 12, paragraph 12. God has no name, and yet his name becomes the final lesson that all things are one. And as this lesson does, all learning ends. So here's what I want you to keep in mind. When all of us begin to understand that God is the same, God is love, we won't need a name for God. There won't be this separate thing out there that we need to refer to, because we will be the expression of love. You don't need to name this separate thing when you are it. Isn't that exciting? God has no name, and yet his name becomes the final lesson that all things are one. And at this lesson does all learning end. All names are unified. All space is filled with truth's reflection. Every gap is closed and separation healed. The name of God is the inheritance he gave to those who choose the teaching of the world to make the place of heaven. Once we clean up the separation that we have created with the world to replace heaven, heaven gets revealed and returns. In our practicing, our purpose is to let our minds accept what God has given as the answer to the pitiful inheritance you made as fitting tribute to the son he loves. Oh my God. We believe that by making ourselves special, making ourselves PhDs, making ourselves the best mom or the special wife or the president or the dictator or the queen or the king, by making ourselves all these special things, we have been denying the truth of who we are, giving ourselves a pitiful inheritance, a temporary inheritance that makes us afraid that somebody's going to take it from us. How pitiful is that? And we've been believing that that's our truth. Holy cow. This is how powerful the ego has been. The illusion of the ego has been very powerful because we've been believing it, but more importantly, because we've been using the mind of God to project this nonsense out there. So we got to clean up all of this misperception and return the mind of God to its rightful place so we can begin to extend the light, the love, the truth, the grace, the compassion that is going to allow us to unite and feel our oneness and our connection. Paragraph 13. No one can fail who seeks the meaning of the name of God. Experience must come to supplement the word, capital W, the word of God, whatever word you want to use. Experience, you have to have felt it before. Then you know that that word is true, whatever word you give to God, because you felt it in your heart. Experience of God inside of you is what will allow you to do whatever it takes to discover God outside of you everywhere you see. But first, you must accept the name for all reality and realize the many names you gave its aspects have distorted what you see, but have not interfered with truth at all. So no matter how much you label things out there, mountains and hills and blades of grass and government and people and giraffes and all that stuff, no matter how much you labeled and separated everything, we didn't undo what God created. God is in everything we see because God is the energy of love in all that there is. So once you begin to see with your third eye and you activate that pineal gland, that essence of who you are, and you activate that knowingness that is right there so that you can see the truth, you will see nothing but light. You will see nothing but the beauty, the essence of what is real. Then all the names and separations begin to go away. And you know what is so exciting? I forget people's names. I forget what places are called, and I love that. People think, oh my God, she's having Alzheimer's or forgetting things or what's happening to her. But I love forgetting because when I don't remember somebody's name, I have to feel who they are. It's so delicious. That's why I usually call people beautiful and love, because half the time I don't remember their name anymore. It's so exciting. Paragraph 13, sentence 4. One name we bring into our practicing, one name we use to unify our sight. Paragraph 14. And though we use a different name for each awareness of an aspect of God's Son, I may still call different people by different names because they're aspects of God, we understand that they have but one name, which He has given them. I know my Father gave you a name, beloved. Beloved, be loved by me, by God, by you. That's how I want to see you, as how God created you. It is this name we use in practicing, and through its use, all foolish separations disappear which kept us blind, and we are given strength to see beyond them. Now our sight is blessed with blessings we can give as we receive. Because when you give, you receive. Giving and receiving are one. And as we give the awareness, the recognition that you are holy, I receive the feeling of holiness in me. As I give love to you, I feel love in me. As I give compassion to you, I feel compassion in me. As I give you truth, I receive truth too. Because I can't see in you what I'm not seeing in me. Paragraph 15 is a beautiful prayer, beautiful prayer. So I'm going to invite you to close your eyes as I read this through. There's no commentary that I can make on a prayer, not one specifically that Jesus has given us. So enjoy this prayer. Father, our name is yours. In it, we are united with all living things, and you who are their one creator. What we have made and called by many different names is but a shadow we have tried to cast across your own reality. And we are glad and thankful we were wrong. All our mistakes we give to you, that we may be absolved from our from all effects our errors seemed to have. And we accept the truth you give in place of every one of them. Your name is our salvation and escape from what we made. Your name unites us in the oneness which is our inheritance and peace. Amen. Thank you for being on this journey with me, my beloved brothers and sisters. You are God to me. You are my beloved. I'll see you at the next lesson.